Reframe community. What is going on? Jordan here. Grateful to be with you again. We're doing something a little bit different this year when it comes to audio insights. And so if you've used our content before, what we would always do is record a short podcast that would kind of speak to what the series is about, where we're going in it, how you should understand it, what you should expect to happen with your students, what you should tell volunteers, and how you can clearly share the gospel. And so this year we have the honor of having writers be a part of our team that are doing work in urban areas all across the country. And so one of my homies, Jeff, what's cracking?
Hey, what's good?
Jeff is in Phoenix, Arizona. Aim Right Ministries doing his thing. And he was gracious enough to write a series for us called 1's, which is on friendships and relationships. And so just wanted to take a little bit of time to get into that. And so, Jeff, super grateful for you being willing to write this series. Thank you for being willing to encourage youth workers in this way. And obviously you've been involved in Reframe as a user, and now you're a writer, which is super dope. Because I feel like obviously you can look at all the stuff we wrote before and you're like, no, that's trash. This is how they need to fix it. And then you can write something that helps us move us in that direction. Right. And so, man, talk to us a little bit about like your thought process behind this series on friendships.
Yeah, man. First of all, thanks for giving me the chance to write for this. I learned a lot as I was writing. But 1's is essentially just looking at relationships and talking about those people that have been with us from the beginning. And if we think about it, every relationship, whether it's a friendship or family bond or even our walk with God, we have a moment with those 1's where something real happens or something real begins. The first time that we let somebody in, or the first time we are vulnerable with people and we realize that it's not a weakness. When we set boundaries, that kind of thing. So this series is all about creating more of those moments or allowing space for that, where God shows up and where kids can learn, where youth can learn what healthy relationships look like that last and that are real.
That's good, bro. Yeah, I think it's really important. And I think like for a lot of youth in our context, right, like they get into relationships oftentimes that are forged out of pain, right?
Yeah.
And so like there's this shared pain. Like I think about honestly some of the closest relationships I have. Like I'm thinking of my homie right now back home in the UK. And like we were super tight because we didn't have like our dads weren't there. You know what I'm saying? Like my dad bounced, his dad bounced. And so like it kind of it brought us together. And like thank God to have a relationship with my dad now. And he's a believer, like crazy stuff happened. But I think about that as a young person and how a lot of times those relationships get forged out of pain and then they can pull you in some crazy directions that like you don't even foresee. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So many kids, they're bonded through trauma, and and then like you said, they take directions that like either they stay surface level or they can get real toxic. And so being able to navigate those, or I think this series really helps youth clarify like the chaos. Helps them be real, because relationships shape everything in a young person's life. And
100%.
Even though this series isn't specifically designed for middle schoolers, this is something I've really been wrestling with 7th, 8th graders, 9th graders, lower high school grades in our programs. And creating space to talk about this stuff is huge because they're asking, they want to know how to navigate this thing, all these relationships.
Yeah. And I mean, and once again, right, I think like middle school is weird. And I think part of the reason why it's weird is because like it's this weird space where you're not sure how much kids know versus how much they don't know. And then like if there's any parent involvement, the parents might get offended if you say too much. You know what I'm saying? And then like honestly as well, based on like traumatic events that kids have experienced and like things that are going on in the home, they might have a maturity level that's beyond their years simply because they've seen things and done things they shouldn't have done already. And so they're asking questions that you're not expecting a 7th, 8th, 9th grader to ask. Like, yo, bro, how do you even know to ask that? Like, what? Why are you even thinking about that? You know what I'm saying? And so like in the spaces that we're in, right? Like, unfortunately, that tends to be much more the case.
Yeah, that's half the battle is figuring out like where they're at developmentally. Like you can have a high schooler, a sophomore, junior, senior in high school that is emotionally at the level that some of your seventh graders are at. And
Hmm.
so I think that's part of the trick is whatever curriculum you're using and whatever series you're in is taking it and making sure that it fits whatever stage your youth are at. Um,
Yeah.
and I think with this series you can make it fit, not make it fit. It's applicable to pretty much any stage, middle
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
school
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
up.
And I think that's the thing, right? Like, either they're already talking about this or they're preparing to talk about it anyways, and so you're providing a framework for
Yeah.
them to even engage the conversation in the first place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you have the type of friendships that last, that are positive influences on your life, that you guys are building each other up in the faith as opposed to tearing each other down or leading each other in destructive directions,
Yeah.
which obviously we know is incredibly important in the spaces that we're in, because a lot of that stuff's happening.
Yeah.
So week one, bro,
Yeah.
honest and vulnerable conversation, or honest and vulnerable relationships.
Yeah.
um so yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
This really sets the stage, and man, I loved writing this series. Uh, and in week one, we talk about being real. How being real isn't easy, especially in our culture where we don't want to show weakness. Uh, Kids got to keep it together. They got to save face. They got to look a certain way. They got to act a certain way. Um, and we really want them to get the truth that vulnerability isn't weakness, that it's strength.
That's good.
And so we tie it into their spiritual formation by helping them understand that opening up to God um, creates a healthier relationship with Him, and then in turn, they're able to open up to their friends and to discern like who you want to open up to. When it's safe to do that. Um, Drawn from James 5:16. Um, where confession and prayer lead to healing. So part of that
Mm,
dynamic
it's
of
good.
being vulnerable is admitting when they're wrong, being able to confess things to each other, and it's all about creating that safe space where you know as you're building trust with them and they're building trust with each other, they can be honest and open with each other.
That's good. Yeah, it makes me think about this reality too, that um I think we got to practice this honesty and vulnerability in the context anyway. So if we're going to tell kids to be honest and vulnerable, then I think we need to demonstrate that, right? In the things that
Yeah.
we're willing to say and the things that we're
Mhm.
willing to share. Obviously, we're not going to go trauma dump on kids, right? And put all our stuff on them, but at the same time, we do want to be thoughtful about, can we share in a way that communicates like, hey, I want to connect with you. I want you to know who I really am. I want you to know some of the things that I wrestle with,
Mhm.
so that you can, understand like, hey, like, I'm trying to follow Jesus too. Like, I ain't got it all figured out.
Absolutely.
You ain't got it all figured out, but we can like figure this thing out together. And then also recognizing too, like, um, it's not a science. And what I mean by that is you can do the right things in relationships and still get hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can uh be honest and open with people that appear to have the right values, and it can go wrong, right? It's not a perfect science in that sense. It's somewhat of an art. And like, there is gray, and there are people who, change or do things that we don't expect them to do. Like, I think about my
Sure.
friendships right now, and I'm like, some of the people that are rocking with me, I'm like, I never thought that 15 years down the line, it would still be me and you. Everybody else is gone. And this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
so, like, being real about some of that stuff too, I think is important as well.
Yeah. One thing I love about the reframe format and the curriculum is there's always space when you're setting up your lesson or your talk or however you're choosing to use this, is you're always incorporating an example from your life. And I wrote into this series, there's space before every lesson on like you're setting the stage by sharing something vulnerable in your life, and you can discern how deep you want to go depending on that relationship you have with the kids and whether it's appropriate. But modeling that is huge. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Paulo Freire. He said that we are the curriculum, and
That's good.
having that chance to be the curriculum for the kids, not just in like this. This isn't just like when you're teaching this for that 1 week, but modeling it uh, like in real life when you're out with them, or um, that they watch you and they see you with your
Mm,
family and how you are. One of the examples that I use when I was teaching this to our youth was when you're running a race. Something I do is I run marathons, and you, at the beginning of the race, you look around and you never know who it is that you're going to end up finishing the race with. Uh, there's people that look slower or faster, and depending on how the race goes, just like in life, you don't know who you're going to finish with. Um, and so those day ones are going to be
mm.
people that you can be honest and vulnerable with, and they're going to finish with you.
That's dope. Okay. So week 2, listen up, active listening and being heard. Talk to
Yes.
me a little bit what you were thinking there.
So this one, again, we went back to James chapter 1. We're talking about being quick to listen and slow to speak. I drew a little bit from um, highly effective habits or habits of highly effective teens. Um,
Mm,
there's a Sean Covey wrote that book and has some flashcards with it, and I took loosely some of the concepts from it, but it's really just being able to have active listening skills. And this one is going to be super practical. Like this will be something that you model with them. Um, it's something where you want to be doing this throughout your presentation or your teaching or your small group or whatever. Um, and for youth in our context, it seems like they're often fighting to have their voices heard, whether it's at
mm,
school or in their families. Um, and so when we teach them to listen actively, um, listen with the intent to understand, not with the intent to respond. Um, it's a way that they can build trust with the people that they're having conversations with, and then that in turn allows them to have a voice. Other people want to reciprocate what they're doing. It's one tool that we can teach them. It also helps them just become better friends. Being able to listen to somebody
facts.
um, and um, be able to empathize with them, or even just to like state back to them what they're hearing. This one's probably one of the most practical um, weeks of the series.
No, it's good. I think like listening is a lost art, bro. Like people don't
Yeah,
know how to listen and really take in what somebody's saying to them,
yeah,
and like how to respond. Like even reflective listening. Like you said something, and then I reflect it back to you to make sure I heard it, and like what that does for you in terms of like, oh, this person's actually listening. They're asking me questions about what I just said, or affirming and confirming that this is what I actually meant when I said that thing, and what that
exactly.
actually does for a relationship. Like, um,
Yeah,
yeah, learning how to listen over the past couple years, obviously doing clinical work, but also before that, doing some spiritual formation stuff in school and really listening, like really reading on what it means to listen. Like the spirituality of listening was like one of the spiritual formation books I read.
oh,
Um,
yeah,
and just how many different people like will listen to respond, or they'll listen and they'll like say something that feels like they're one upping you, right? And they feel like they're trying to connect with you, but they're really missing the point of what's being said. And just like how rare it is for someone to just stop, take in something that somebody has to say, ask questions about it, and then not feel like they have to feel the space that comes afterwards, or move the conversation somewhere else. Being able to sit in whatever that discomfort is with that person, depending on what it is that they're sharing.
yeah. That's so good, Jordan. I think um, that skill, what you said about it being a lost art is so true. Um, and I think one of the the effects of us not being able to listen to each other, and especially youth not being able to listen to each other, is it does nothing to diffuse conflict. So if they're having an argument, or they're about to throw hands, they're not going to be doing any active listening. Like their amygdala is going crazy,
Yep.
lizard brain is taking
Reptilian
over.
brain off.
But if they have this and it's muscle memory for them, or like they've practiced it enough to know how to actively listen, I really think they're going to be able to diffuse some of that conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be surprised by how well that they can even control a situation. The other thing that this does is we want them to experience what it's like to listen to what God has for them, whether it's through somebody else, through meditation,
That's good.
or prayer. So this is a great week. This is one of my favorite weeks to
That's
teach.
dope.
I spent when I was teaching through this series with our kids, I spent 2 weeks just on this, and it was huge. It was really helpful.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think even that piece, as it pertains to like listening to God, is essential in a world that's fast paced, loud, constantly connected. That ability to step away and be able to listen in the quiet, in nature, like I believe a massive thing that is hindering young people is their lack of connection to general revelation, like God's creation, and like being lost in the digital world. And I think that has all types of implications. But I think if we can teach kids to like slow down and spend 10 minutes a day, man, just listening, and I think it could be like life changing, because obviously that habit can grow, and then it grows in context of conversation, relationship, all that stuff. So good.
Yeah, you can really build on this lesson specifically. And one of the ways that I could envision somebody using it is if you're at a summer camp, or you're doing a retreat, or some kind of like getaway with your youth, being able to talk through this active listening thing. I think those spaces you could really lean into that active listening to God, and that revelation of where you're sitting by, outdoors in nature, like you said. I think it could be really helpful for that as well.
Yeah, bro. Okay. Week 3, handle it, facing conflict with grace.
Yes.
What were you thinking there?
Like what you said earlier, people are always going to mess up. They're going to come at you, or they're going to do things that you didn't expect. Conflict is unavoidable. It's part of life. And Jesus calls us to handle that conflict with grace. He kind of flips the script on this, win at all costs mentality. And in that Romans section that we use for this week, we overcome evil with good.
That's good.
Something that this has been a tough concept for me to really even think through, because so much of what in our context in the urban space is like, you can't be weak. Like, you can't be out there and just give in to somebody. Like, it's not safe. It's physically not safe to do that.
Yeah. I get you.
So this really is, I think, helps start just building a foundation of an overall approach to conflict. Instead of just clapping back right away. And if especially on social media, this is a great lesson for that space. Instead of just responding back right away, or trying to get revenge, or one upping, or trying to cause harm in some way. Week 3 really builds on the previous 2 weeks. So taking a step back, pausing, praying, responding with wisdom, handling conflict God's way isn't necessarily about being passive. It's more about like reflecting love in those hard situations.
That's good.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of thinking with that. It's for me, this has been a tough one to really teach to kids, but when I use it more as like a basis for just how to handle conflict in general. We always have those conversations about, hey, what if somebody pulls up on you? Then you have to take care of yourself, but there's probably a reason why you're in that situation. So going back to that
Yeah.
and building that foundation.
And that's the thing, right? It's always That's the interesting thing about these conversations. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's always like gray, right? And there
Yeah.
are always these
Hmm.
there are these situations and circumstances in the context of where you live that, you know, might be exceptions to the rule, so to speak, just for argument's sake. And kind of like navigating those with students, but even working through the nature of that situation. Like, you know, I was having this conversation with my friend the other day. Like, I'm grown, bro. I got 3 kids. If someone wants to start something with me, I'm doing everything I can to avoid it.
Yeah.
Everything. You can call me out my name. What, I don't even care, bro. I got 3 kids and a wife and a mortgage. I got people to take care of. I got things to do, bro. Like, I'm not trying to fight you. Now, if I have to, like, if I absolutely have to, because, like, okay, like, it's me or you, okay, it
Right.
is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I can't do anything about that.
Hmm.
Like, I got, you know, and, you know, some people would agree, some people would disagree, but I'm just saying, like, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I'm doing everything I can to, like, completely diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I
And
think that's the balance, right? And helping kids understand that. Like, are you doing everything you can to diffuse the situation? Or is it like,
exactly.
yo, you called me out my name, I feel disrespected, and now, you know, you're gonna have to get this 2 piece. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Exactly.
do you
Exactly.
have to do that though?
It's all about giving them the tools. Like, if you know, if violence or physical aggression is the only tool you have in your tool belt, that's what you're going to use. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be your
That's
go-to.
good, bro.
And also, like, gives, like, this isn't gonna, like you said, it's a gray area sometimes where we just want to. This is like begins a conversation. This is not something where
Mm-hmm.
you finish this week and you've buttoned it up nicely and we figured it all out. It's, that's an ongoing conversation to have.
Absolutely.
I mean, for us too, it's still an ongoing conversation.
100%. Yeah. 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 It's good. And then week 4, the real ones, building real
Yeah.
friendships, dealing with toxicity, setting
Mhm.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
It was important to have the first 3 weeks under our belts before we got to week 4, um, so we could kind of really discern who's going to be who are going to be the ones that are going to be healthy for us, the right people to have in our corner. Um, we want to get through some of the BS and some of the surface level stuff about, like, it's more than just like who's fun to kick it with or who you can just hang with, but like who's going to be there when you need them. Like when
Yep.
when when you hit rock bottom, when something happens with your family, when you got to move, when you know things happen with siblings or other friends, like people that are going to keep it 100 with you no matter what. And Proverbs is where we go. Walk with the wise and become wise. And we really want to have youth in this week ask some tough questions about their friendships. Like, are their friends lifting them up or pulling them down? Um, and if they're really real about it, then they'll be able to identify some toxic relationships. And again, this will be a week where you have to discern where your students are at. You can have some like deeper conversations with maybe some more mature students who can really talk through what a toxic relationship looks like, and you can keep it more simple for kids that maybe aren't quite there yet. But boundaries, um, aligning yourself with God's purpose. Does that align with what your friends are doing? Um, and it's more about like protecting your heart, keeping your life aligned with God than it is just cutting people out because you don't like them or they said something. So it's
Yeah.
look at mirroring what God's will is for your life and measuring your friendships based on that.
That's good, bro. Yeah, I think it's tough. And it's like, once again, it's an ongoing conversation, right? Because number one, kids are going to hear this and it might take them a while before they even decide what they're going to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a journey, right? In that sense, it's not just like, hey, you said this and now they're going to go do it and apply it to their life immediately. And there's nuances to it. And once again, it's like, I think I remember this from the lesson, like the idea that like it doesn't mean God saying like, yo, you can't have friends who ain't Christian.
Right.
That's not the point.
Not at
But
all.
the point is the people that you trust most deepest, the people that you're going to when you're like needing advice or needing wisdom, needing counsel, hopefully will be like believing people who, like brothers and sisters who are going to point you in the direction of like the scriptures of the gospel and pray for you and encourage you in that direction, right? And that's what you should want for yourself if you're going to grow in your faith. And then the challenge somewhat is for those friends who don't believe the same thing as you, or maybe are in a difficult space for whatever reason, is to encourage them in that direction, right? You want to be that light for them as they're trying to figure it out, and maybe be that source of wisdom for them um, while they're figuring out what it means to follow Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah, that's really good. Um, the One of the examples that I gave when I was teaching through this um, is just because somebody is part of your church, or says that they're a Christian, doesn't mean that they have this relationship thing figured out. It doesn't mean that, like, just because they call themselves a Christian doesn't mean that they're not going to hurt you, or even try to manipulate you or do anything. I gave an example of a friendship that I had that was in the context of church, and we were close, but this other person was manipulating me and
Hmm.
just using me, and it was toxic. It was like a codependent thing, and so we kind of talked through that in our group, and that really helped open up their eyes to, like, oh, what people do, how people manipulate me or use me is not what God intended for relationships. And
Mm,
we had
that's
a
good.
long discussion on what that, even just that, like, manipulation piece or codependency piece, what that means and looks like in a relationship, just even along like in simple terms. um and then we just, we try to make it, as for this one, almost as objective as we can, of like, are they helping you or are they hurting you? And then, then we would talk through, is it worth continuing that relationship, or do we need to take a break, or cut it off?
Yeah, it's good. I think about too the kids that there's probably students that are experiencing that at home. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Being
Yeah.
manipulated by parents, brothers and sisters, or guardians,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so, helping them think through this, and once again, helping them navigate it in a sense. Okay, maybe you need to navigate this a little bit differently. Um, Set boundaries, whatever that, and obviously do that in a way that's honorable, respectful,
Yeah.
whatever. Or maybe look at what's happening from a different perspective, um, because unfortunately, based on where you find yourself, what family unit you're a part of or not, you might have to um, operate in ways that other kids don't have to.
Yeah.
And kind of just keeping it a stack about that too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like I gotta talk a kid through what it looks like for them to forgive their parents for their parents walling. You know what I'm saying? And
Exactly.
it's like, well, the parents aren't being mature. I gotta navigate this conversation and help the student navigate it with some maturity. And once again, that isn't always the case, right? It's just that those nuances come up, and I think we have to be prepared for those and be prepared to engage those conversations.
Absolutely. They're always tough, and sometimes it's hard to even know what advice to give somebody
Yep,
that's going
for
through
real.
that, especially if the parent is like, I mean, we all, a lot of our students, they don't, parents are not involved, or you know, the kids are the ones that are responsible. Um,
Hmm.
and one thing that was really helpful through this is just helping students become aware that there are toxic relationships. So even just like exposing them to this concept that
Hmm.
of what healthy relationships can look like
Yep.
helps them start thinking through the relationships, especially with their parents or people that are in authority over them.
Yep.
Um, and then, obviously peer to peer, and bringing it back to what God wants for your life, and how that relationship will never be toxic. That relationship will never be manipulative.
Mm,
It's
that's
always
good.
going to be something where He has the best for you in mind.
That's good. So what would you encourage volunteers with? Like, what would you tell? How would you tell them to prepare for this series? Maybe the small group leaders and different
Mhm.
things of that nature that are going to be doing different things with kids.
Yeah, I think we mentioned some of it. One is figuring out how much or how vulnerable you can be in setting things up and in through the discussion. So like being prepared with some stories, some examples for each week that you've got ready, so that you can share with them if it's appropriate. Um, the I think the big thing for this series, especially, is that idea that you are the curriculum. So modeling what you're teaching, especially that vulnerability piece, is going to be huge. Something I found myself, what I was doing personally when I was prepping this, when I was writing it, and then teaching it, was I had to do some inner work myself
It's good.
and look at what relationships I had that were toxic, or do I practice active listening. It was really, I had to do some of that work as I was preparing for it. So I think so. There's some prep work I think to do beforehand. For volunteers, it might be helpful to know beforehand if students start sharing something, especially when you get to that week 4 and the toxic relationships, what the plan is when they start sharing some things that maybe are out of your depth and you're not able to handle. Um, if they're sharing something that needs to be, I don't know, reported, or if maybe they could use somebody that's licensed, or a therapist or a counselor, knowing who you can refer them to, or take them to, or who to pull in for that.
That's good.
Knowing that you don't have to bear under the weight of all the things they're saying. Those would be
That's
the
good.
three main things. Having a plan for when kids tell you things that you're not really equipped to handle. Doing the work yourself before you go through that, and yeah, be the curriculum.
That's good. And then last but not least, where do you see the gospel? Like, where does the youth worker who's communicating this and teaching this, where do you see the opportunities to like clearly share Jesus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I the vulnerability piece um, really stuck out to me, of how Christ, became vulnerable to the point of giving his life to us. You could also see in Scripture where he's praying, he's pouring his heart out to the Father, um, and so showing that relationship ties all the way, like it goes all the way to the cross, um,
Hmm.
is going to be huge. The um, the week 4 um, topic of that relationship piece is, God desires a relationship with us. So talking through that with the kids, of what that looks like to have a relationship with um, with Christ. Yeah. Um, week there was a I think it was week 3, overcoming evil with good. Um, you know, the ultimate example of Jesus overcoming death and giving his life for us, taking the keys of death from hell, and overcoming it and giving us life through that. So those would be kind of the main things that I focus on with the gospel.
Dope. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Cool. Well, um, I think this is going to be super helpful, and I'm excited to hear what youth workers have to say. But would you close us out by praying for everybody who's going to be using this material this year?
Yeah, I would love to. Father, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for the gift of your son, Jesus, and that perfect relationship that we can have with you through him. God, we give the youth that we're ministering to you. We know that they are going through sometimes unspeakable things, the trauma that they're going through in their life. And just being a kid in the world is difficult no matter where you're at. So we give our youth to you. Help us to model this to them, these different concepts of active listening and being vulnerable, and overcoming evil with good, having grace in the way we handle conflict, and knowing when to set boundaries. Help us to have wisdom, be with all the youth workers and volunteers, the youth pastors that are going to be teaching this. I pray that you would give them discernment, give them courage and boldness to share what you have placed on their hearts. And I pray, Father, that this would not be the end of the conversation, but be the beginning of it, that they would be able to continue to build relationships and trust through this series. Thank you so much again for the gift of your son. It's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Jeff, appreciate you, bro. Thank you. Um, Reframe community, grateful for you. Hope this is helpful, useful, edifying, encouraging, and ultimately helps you reach more youth. We love you. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.